to the Shades of Entrepreneurship, where we interview entrepreneurs to inspire the future entrepreneur. I'll be your host, Mr. Gabriel Flores. So grab a drink, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This returning guest is on a mission to eliminate marketing overwhelm for good, showing service providers how to replace complex marketing strategies with a single powerful story that sells 24/7. Please welcome back the founder of Red Door, Kris Jones. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Shades of Entrepreneurship. This is your host, Mr. Gabriel Flores. Today, we have a returning guest, which I'm really excited about because we're going to talk about why this individual is currently touring. But before we get into all that information, Kris, welcome back. Go ahead and give us a little introduction, a reintroduction for those individuals who may have missed the episode. Shame on you. Please go check out theshadesofme.com and subscribe. But please, Kris, introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Kris Jones. I live here in Portland. I have a boutique storytelling firm, and I'm a big believer in less is more marketing. As self-employed people, we we got we do our own work. Like, we chose to be self-employed to have freedom and to do the work that we love to do. What we don't realize often prior to making that decision is that self-employment requires you to become a part-time marketer. And nobody really wants to do that part. It kind of feels like this like never-ending to-do list, the hamster wheel of like feeding that insatiable marketing monster. So what I love to do is use the power of story and really help business owners craft a signature story that sells for them. So they've got one story, they use that same story in every area of their marketing, most importantly on their website. Everything points back to the website, and you can just rest easy knowing that your website is really your top salesperson, and you're freed up to really do the work you love and to spend time doing what matters most.
And I feel like this conversation is also a perfect timing because storytelling as it comes out, from the marketing perspective is so essential right now for brands because there is so much static, right, in the market right now, and making sure that your audience resonates with you and the message that you're creating, right? What is the true north of that brand and that value proposition, right? They want to feel like cared for and about because interest rates are high, inflation's high, and so spending even a little bit of money on something, individuals are starting to think twice and three times before they pull out that wallet. So creating, that storytelling is so important. Now let's tell us a little bit about why you are touring.
Mm, I am currently on a book tour. I've been working for the past year on a book called From Click to Client: How to Easily Create a Story-Driven Website That Turns Visitors into Clients. When I get on the phone, when I talk to a lot of client-based business owners, and when I get on the phone with them, their websites are a mess. Not only that, they're ashamed of it. They're ashamed to send people to it. They often pretend it doesn't even exist. And I've watched this happen time and time again. And they know that story is important, but they don't quite know how to use the fundamentals of story on their website to make their website really more effective at helping them grow their business. The other thing I love getting into is really story-driven design. And for non-designers, right? You do not have to be a great designer to implement really powerful story-driven design principles onto your website. My mission is really to allow people to understand what works and what doesn't work so they can look at their website and get rid of the things that aren't working tune up the things that are working, and really make their website their most effective marketing tool.
Yeah, and folks, if you have not listened to the episode, go check it out on theshadesofe.com. Really great episode, because during that episode, Kris kind of gave me some pointers about my own website. And Kris, you mentioned you've been kind of writing this book for about a year, kind of putting together, right?
Yes.
One, what inspired you to write From Click to the Client, I believe it was called,
Hmm. Hmm.
and why release it now?
Good question. Um, you know, I've heard people talk about this in different ways, but you can't write a book unless you're pregnant with a book. And I found myself pregnant with a book, and so it was less about like it was not so much a strategic decision, but more like I found myself pregnant with this book and I gave birth to it because it was ready. I think the other piece of this is I've been doing this work 23 years, and I really empathize with the struggle that business owners have around marketing, around storytelling, around really just even answering that question, what do you do, in a compelling and clear way that gets people excited to work with you. And so I've worked with many, I mean, at this point, thousands of business owners. And I have intimate insights into some of the common struggles that all of these people go through and struggle with. And so it feels like the book was really written in an effort to reach more people. My time is limited. To work with me is right around a $5,000 engagement, which for many business owners is a no-brainer. They often will make that money back in 2 weeks or 30 days. That being said, not everybody has the budget. It also depends on like what phase of entrepreneurship you're in. You early in the game? Are you late in the game? What's happening? And so what I really um, the problem that I really want to solve is I don't want business owners to hate their website and not know how to make it better. And so there's nothing worse than being left trying to DIY your own website as a business owner and not quite knowing what to do and not having direction. Um, of course, the benefit of that is that it's free. But what is it really costing you in lost sales and lost opportunities, and clients that pass you by because you're not showing up online as the expert that you truly are? Um, the other side of that coin is, okay, you have a budget and you want to work with someone like me, and I can help you and literally do it with you and do it for you. The book is really kind of a marriage of those two things. For under $20, you can get the book and you can have me by your side walking you through the process step by step. So you don't have to do it alone, but you can do it on a budget.
I love it. And again, folks, this will be available. I'll have the link on theshadesofE.com. So make sure you subscribe, go visit theshadesofE.com. And Kris, it's funny. I love that you're kind of talking about like the website development, because I believe I'm kind of in that bucket, right? Where the Shades of Entrepreneurship, when I started it, it was kind of like, let me get proof of concept. So I went with Wix. Now, for folks that understand website building, you'll understand Wix is not for scaling. It's just it's kind of like Squarespace. Again, nothing, I'm not saying anything bad about them, but they just have templates that are kind of created to really make website design easy. But it kind of also just gives you a general baseline of what you need. But if you're really truly trying to scale, you kind of need to bring in a designer. You kind of need to go to WordPress, where you can really kind of get a little bit more, or maybe some other type of web page design that's a little bit more, I would say, uh, more advanced than Wix capabilities and some of the capabilities that some of these other templated website locations have. Now, with that said, I would be very interested to hear Because again, I'm actually in this transition right now where I am actually now, taking on RFPs and hey, what can you do for the design? Because I'm starting to think, okay, I need to start transitioning from the podcasts, right, to your
Mm-hmm.
point, becoming
Mm-hmm.
the expert that people see me as, and
Mm-hmm.
how do I promote that? How to become number one on
Mm-hmm.
Google? So can you share with me some of your most shocking website transformation stories?
Well, you bring up such a good point, and I talk about this in the book. I am actually a big fan of cloud-based builders like Wix, like Squarespace, as long as it's aligned and can support your bigger business vision. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Does that builder have the capacity to do that? Are you looking for a community? Are you wanting to build multiple courses? If your vision is heading in that direction, you might want to go with either WordPress. I'm a big fan of Kajabi. It's kind of an all-in-one platform. It is more money monthly, but when you have all that capability under one roof, and that can really ultimately save you money. What I like to say is nobody asked Van Gogh which brand of canvas he painted on, right?
Very
So
true.
as long as you like the tool, I think the most important part of making a decision about the builder that you use is, does it work with your brain? Like, can you easily pop in there and make updates and changes to it? Um, that's the most important one, because we all know what it's like to have a website and to avoid going in there and making changes to it because it's a headache or unintuitive. It's an unintuitive interface. So my top priority is that the builder you choose is intuitive to you, that it can support your bigger, longer term business vision. But ultimately, the principles that I talk about, both storytelling principles and story driven design principles, can be implemented on any builder. Wix, Squarespace, Kajabi, WordPress, like really, they're applicable to all the builders.
Yeah, and again, folks, I have nothing bad to say about Wix. To Chris's point here, I used Wix, and it's gotten me to this point where now I'm able to scale, and I feel like it's not time to go to the next level. As Chris kind of pointed out, because again, Rick's really helped me create a community. It created my, subscription model. It helped me kind of understand. Really kind of was a crash course in starting to learn how to do SEOs, learning about keyword phrases and all these different things, right? So I got a nice baseline, which is really nice because now when I
Mhm.
actually go out and hire somebody and I'm taking on these RFPs, now I know what questions to ask, right? And I kind of
Right.
know like,
Yeah.
okay, well, how is this going to okay, what other softwares? How are these interchange? Like, how are they all?
Right.
How's it going to interface with each other? This is what I
Yeah.
currently have. Does it make sense to currently, continue this model versus that model? So it's
Hmm.
really fun to kind of go through that process and
Yeah.
start to understand it. But what would you say? Because again, we're humans, we make mistakes.
Mhm.
What's the biggest website mistake you see service providers making?
Ooh, I love that question. Before I dive into that, I want to just put a bow on a point that you made that I think was really important around Wix and Squarespace and all the other like pretty simple uh, DIY builders. Those builders, what often happens, and I guess I would consider this a mistake that people make, but I completely understand why it happens. So when you become self-employed, often you're like, okay, well, now I need a website. Like, I've got to have a home on the internet where people can find me. Okay, Wix, Squarespace, whatever, it doesn't matter. You get on there, you pick one of their templates, and you're thinking, this is a website company, so their templates must be good. So you follow their lead and you kind of they have a paragraph here. You fill in a little bit about yourself here. You fill in a little bit about maybe your dog or that you like to travel here. And like you kind of follow their lead. Well, builders like that, I love that they're intuitive to manage, but they're in the business of brochure websites. And as a business owner, you do not want or need a brochure website. A brochure website doesn't convert new clients. It kind of sits there. It might look pretty. It might say some nice words about who you are, but really what you need, no matter what builder you're on, is a strategic website that's effective at selling for you, that really can sell for you when you're not there. And that 24/7, that's really what we need. And nobody should settle for any less. You just shouldn't. It really is, can really be a make or break in your business. Okay, part two of that. Biggest mistake I see online is business owners, entrepreneurs, self-employed people making themselves the hero of their own story. And this goes hand in hand with the mistake that I just shared. You're following the lead with their template. They're like, "Hi, I'm Nancy. I love to hike, and here's how I found yoga, and now I'm a yoga instructor," whatever it is. But I I really understand why this happens. We feel forced to put a website up quickly. We're like, it's my website. Of course, I need to talk about myself. But what happens? What happens when we make our story all about us is we become the hero of our own story. And very quickly, I'll give you the 20-second overview of the formula for every story ever told. A hero has a problem they don't know how to solve. They meet a guide who has a solution, who can solve their problem and guide them to success. It is that simple. That is like the most simple version of a story. Now, the hero is actually your client, and you are the guide. They are Danielson, and you are Mr. Miyagi. So we never want to be the hero of our own story, because the hero is actually the weakest character in the story. And when potential clients come to your website, we want to invite them into a story. And the way we invite them into your story is by really making them the central figure of the story. And not that you're not in there, you play a very important role, but it's a little bit secondary to the actual hero. And when a potential client comes to your website and they feel seen, they feel heard, they can envision themselves in your narrative, they feel connected with you, they begin to trust you, and most importantly, you become the obvious choice for them to want to work with.
I love that. I love the again, folks, look at movies. The hero, you don't know, like Jar Jar Binks was a hero in Star Wars, but he was a huge liability. Look at the Green Power Ranger back in the day. He was a huge liability. He was also a hero. I would rather be
Right.
Gandalf, right? Because he's the guide, than
Yes.
Frodo Baggins. So I'm just saying, folks, I'm just saying I like Kris's point, and I absolutely love that analogy, because I just was able to throw out a bunch of sci-fi movies in the process for no reason other just to show off my nerdness, folks. I swear. But no, Kris, this is really fascinating, because it is about storytelling, right? And I'm starting to see my own mistakes. Again, I love having these conversations with folks. Folks, I keep trying to tell you, I'm selfish. I really have these conversations just so I can continue to learn more and get better every day. I swear. So when you start thinking about storytelling, and you start thinking about, okay, how do I implement, like you mentioned, putting it kind of within your website, making sure the story resonates with people, so your website's working 24/7. How quickly can someone implement, your specific story driven? Because you mentioned your book. That again, folks,
Yes.
check out thesageofe.com. Go ahead and subscribe. It will be on there. How quickly can someone implement your story driven website method?
Within a day. I mean, it can happen so quickly. The process is essentially 4 steps. The first step is what I call mining for gold. Your story is not invented or created, it is mined. It already exists within you. I just know exactly what questions to ask in order to pull it out of you. So that first step is called mining for gold. And that's where I ask you really targeted questions that pull your story out of you. And then we take those like raw nuggets of gold and we move into step 2 with that, and we polish that gold. We refine your story. We figure out where each little bit of gold has a place. And when we intentionally place the gold of our story, it unfolds into this beautiful narrative that can be really effective in helping us grow. And then what you do next is really take that story and apply it to your website. So I show you how to take those words and put it into your website builder, whatever your website builder is, and then marry it with story-driven design. And again, you do not have to be a good designer to implement 4 simple principles, design principles that I have included in the book. They're very simple, but they will make your site look like it was designed by a professional designer, and you will never look at a website the same way again. And then step 4 is just all about reaping the benefits of what you've just crafted, and that's called sign more clients. So just start attracting those ideal clients and converting them into paying clients, and also repelling wrong fit clients. Like, we all know what it's like to waste our precious time on the phone with people who aren't the right fit for
Oh yeah.
what
Oh
our
yeah.
special sauce is. So that's also really important part of a strategic website like this, is to really attract the right people and repel the wrong ones.
I got to tell you, that's one of the more frustrating things, I think, for anybody in the sales kind of relationship management world. Anytime you try to create a value proposition relationship with anybody and you start building a rapport, only to realize that the relationship, there's no value add for either side sometimes, but more importantly for yourself, because all the time and energy and sometimes the money that has gone into building that and fostering that relationship all for naught is tough. And one of the
Mhm.
things you mentioned, you want to repel the wrong clients, right? You don't want to necessarily absorb those ones. And one thing you also mentioned was, making sure that we're not the hero in our own website, in our own story. What are, as folks that are listening, I'm listening. I'm like, shoot, I got to go update my website after this conversation. But what do most professional websites actually do to repel dream clients? How do they get some of those folks?
You mean how do
Or
they
how, sorry,
attract or
repel. I mean, as in how do they
attract?
actually, outside of just the being their own hero, what are some other
Mhm.
things that they do to repel some of their dream clients?
That's such a good question. Um, they talk about themselves too much. They will often get so excited about the way they solve their problem that they'll like want to get right into that right off the bat. And I liken that to like if you met somebody for a first 15-minute coffee date, would you sit down and say, "Oh my gosh, I have the best plumber. You've got to have this plumber's information. He did the best job with my plumbing." And they're like, "But that's not even a problem that I have. I, you know, I don't need a plumber, right?" And so we really want to, when you imagine meeting somebody for coffee, you really want to sit down and take the time to connect with them, really understand what's going on in their world. You can share a little bit about what's going on in your world. And we really show them that they matter by taking the time to connect with them. So, one thing I see a lot is just an eagerness to talk about how we solve the problem before we've really taken the time to show them that they are the central figure, help them really understand, help them really know that we understand the nuances of their struggle and that their success is our top priority. Before we ever get into anything about what we do, how we solve their problem. So we want to take the time to do that first. The other thing that people do, I mean, people are really, when they come to your website, they're looking to be told what to do. They're tired of trying to figure it out themselves. If they could have figured it out themselves, they would have by now, but they can't. So that's why they're looking for somebody like you. And so one of the most important things that you can do is be very clear and strategic with your call to action and not overwhelm them with too many options or buttons that are different in each section. You want to really repeat over and over what is the next step that you want them to take in order to engage with you, so they're clear on what they need to do next. They want to be told what to do. It's a relief if you're the guide telling them what that next step should be. And I think um, people that I work with often think, oh, shouldn't I change it up from section to section? And the reality is, no, we want to stay consistent with that call to action. So they're not confused. And at the moment that they're ready to take that next step, that call to action is there ready for them.
Yeah, I must admit, yeah, I've tried to design my website in a way that it flows for people.
Mhm.
Right. So it's like you're kind of going through it as in a way like, okay, if you're not going to listen to this episode now or subscribe, here's, try to get them to continue to the subscribe. Right. Again, folks, that's why I constantly tell you to visit theshadesofe.com and go ahead and subscribe. Right. But
Right.
that's
Yeah.
kind of my call to action. But to your point, one thing I'm also realizing, again, I don't have my website up, but I can see it in my head is that one, I'm the hero of the story. So I kind of need to edit that. Two, there's a lot of different call to actions. Subscribe to my YouTube, subscribe to my podcast, subscribe to newsletter, do this, do that, blog, blah, blah, blah. And it's like,
Yeah.
I'm probably confusing the heck out of people.
What what would be the most beneficial for them to subscribe to? And what would be the most beneficial for you as a business owner for them to subscribe to? Like, what's going to help them get to know you the most?
Yeah, I'd probably, yeah, the newsletter, I guess I would have to say the newsletter. Now, with one question I was going to have, I feel like there's probably some words I should use versus I shouldn't use. What are some of those words I should be putting on the website or phrases that I either should start using to attract, like you mentioned, to kind of make them feel like one, I'm not the hero, and then two, what are some phrases I should stop using?
Mm. Well, I want to get back to your call to action. Um, People are pretty protective of their emails, and they're pretty hesitant to hand it over. And so, rather than subscribe to my newsletter, I'd love your call to action to be more benefit focused. So, um, you know, what kind of breakthrough are they going to have by getting your newsletter over and over, or what's a benefit that they're going to get? So, I would want to work with you to kind of refine how you phrase that, cuz typically um people are hesitant to sign up for a newsletter unless they know that it's going to benefit them in some way. And so there's simple language you could add to that to really make that clear. And I think it would really increase your subscription, so your signups.
It makes sense because I'm also one of those individuals, right? That you know, well, won't subscribe unless I see the benefit. Now, like you're actually mentioning right there, there are also certain words that you can use. What are some things, some words one we should possibly start using that are a little
Mhm.
bit more consumer friendly versus
Yeah.
words you should just avoid?
I'm a big fan of actionable words. So Um, I take part of the taking time to connect at the beginning of the website is really helping them understand or feel like you know the nuances of their struggle. And so I often will start the website out with something like, what are you struggling with? And I'll get into 3 or 5 bullets of really nuanced language. Like, are you up at night worried that your money is going to run out before you retire? Or whatever their problem is. And all you have to do is refer to your sales calls. What are people complaining about over and over and over again? Um, so that's number one. But back to the actionable words. Part two of that is really your job as the guide is to help them envision a brighter future for themselves. Often the heroes get so stuck in their own problem, they've forgotten like what is possible for them once they solve that problem. And so your job as the guide is to really point to that mountain peak and go look at what's possible for you. Once this problem is solved, after we've worked together and this problem is solved, what does your life look like then? Not during our work together, but after our work together. And so I like to put these, like, I typically have about three what are the three things they want more than anything? And I like to start those with an actionable word. And I get into this in detail in my book as well. But it might be like achieve financial freedom. So achieve is the word, or um, feel more confident. Notice they're actionable words that they're actually going to experience. Um, I like to use language like that. It really connects with people and resonates with people.
I like it. You know, it makes sense. You know, that's one thing I've been trying to do is change up my kind of call to actions to be a little bit more like um, support the show, right? And it'd be, you know, to purchase a sweater or things like that, which you can do by
Yes.
visiting theshadesofE.com. Again, you know, trying to change it up in that way. And, you know, really, again, I'm Kris, I'm totally going to take your advice as well and kind of start to dig into that and start looking at the different
Mhm.
phrasing and what is the benefit of the newsletter. But more importantly, one thing you mentioned that I'm really starting to dig on is what is the benefit to the business? Like, okay, you want them to sign up for the newsletter. Well, for what? What is the
Mhm.
business getting in return if that
Mhm.
is in fact the call to action that is spread out through the entire web page, right? The entire website. So, folks, that's another thing to take in consideration as well is make sure that the call to action on your web page is actually a value of for yourself as well, not just a value proposition for your consumers, but what are you getting in return, right? Is the websites, is the emails, like Kris mentioned, is it the email addresses that you're after? Because again, some consumers are very private with their emails.
Mhm.
Is it their geographic location? Is it their preferences? What is it that you're trying to get in return? So I
Right.
really like that as well, because that's another learning thing. Again, folks, I'm selfish. I love these conversations because I learn so much from them. Now, Kris, you know, for folks that are interested in finding From Click to Client,
Mhm.
or it's out now, where can they find it? Where can they find more information about you?
Yes, you can go to my website, reddoordesigns.com/book, and you can find and buy the book there.
I love it. And again, folks, this will also be available on the Shades of Entrepreneurship website. Please go visit theshadesofE.com, subscribe to the newsletter. Although maybe I'll be asking something else after this. I don't know. Maybe we'll ask you to subscribe to something. Who knows, folks? The call to action may change because again, Kris has given me such great insight. Now, Kris, before we go, is there any last words you have to say for the folks that are listening at home?
If you're on a budget and you're really looking for some quick and efficient guidance on how to tell a compelling story, also on my website is a free guide and a 5-minute tutorial with a worksheet that you can fill out and really begin to apply storytelling principles in your own messaging on your own website. So it's a great way to start shifting that lens from not being the hero and stepping into that guide role, which is the most important thing that you can do.
I love it. And I love that, again, I'm getting so many ideas because again, I love the call to action, but then you also have something of value for the clients. Cause like you mentioned, people are going to come to you and they're like, hey, help me, just help me. I just need the guide rails, right?
Right.
I can
Right.
plug in the blank words because it's my story. Right.
Hmm.
But I just need the
Hmm.
guide rails to get me there. And
Totally.
Kris is really just providing you the guide rails. So again, folks, this information, I'll try to get that link and I'll make sure I have it on the website as well. So Kris will have a dedicated page. This conversation will also be on the website and as well as on YouTube. And for those Patreon members, this episode will actually be released a week early. So again, for $5 a month, exclusive rights to this $5 this will be a week early. You also get the transcription. You'll get some backstage content as well. So again, that's kind of maybe that's where I'll start call to action and start focusing on the Patreon area, right? Because
Yes.
that's the true value. So again, Kris, thank you so much for your time. I
Mm,
truly love our conversation, and thank you for coming back. It actually,
mm.
for me, it's actually really a blessing because it's like a, kind of a proof of concept that people actually do like coming on this show. And maybe I'm not just selfish. Maybe they like it as well. So maybe we're all learning something. So again, Kris, thank you so much. reddoordesigns.com, folks, go check it out. Make sure you check out theshadesofE.com. We'll have this information. You can also follow us at theshadesofE.com on all the social sites. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you for tuning in to the Shades of Entrepreneurship. For more information, please follow the Shades of E on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or visit theshadesofE.com.